Hey, Jules Blessed Vegan, and as always, welcome to my channel. And for those of you who are new, I know you can benefit. How's it going, peeps? Just figured I'd check in. It was a really big day, and there was snow in the foothills, which was really exciting. And we still had PE and just froze and admired the beauty. And you know, I walked my mile and did all the things. I got on my curly girl hair today. No product, just soft vegan hair. Yay God. And then, if you really know, it's actually much longer than it appears. But that's the game with curly girl hair, which is great. I love it. So it was raining locally, but it actually didn't rain at my school. It was just snow in the foothills and super cold, insanely cold. But the children still went out and played. No one thought anything of it. At my previous school, it would have been, what's it called? Intermittent weather, I think, where we keep the kids in. At this school, no. I mean, unless it's actually snowing, no. And I was like, right on, I'm good. It was funny. We had an awards ceremony, which was great. I was happy to celebrate all the kids. And we did get a permanent teacher. So other than this week of transition and me teaching her the ropes, when I come back from Thanksgiving break, will be my own self with just my class. And everything else I share will only be grace and not required, which I welcome. Yay God. But hey, I did my time. I helped out. And people were very kind. Like the last 2 days, people actually stopped to say thank you so much for all the work you've done. And we're so glad you're at our school. And even though like it's not everything to everyone, we really need good teachers in the desert. And we're so glad you're here. And I was just like, thank you, Father, because I knew he was speaking to me through them. And that was very kind and much needed. I loved it. Anyway, I'm well and eating clean and rejoicing. I mean, yes, I'm walking a mile on the track, but I haven't been rebounding. I kind of with all the stuff. I mean, first I was just sick. I had a really bad cold, if you look back 10 videos ago, right? And then insanely inflamed gums, which are coming along. Are they done? They're not quite done, but I'm recognizing them as my own again. So my gums are coming along, but that was kind of something. Like my body's been going through something. But I noticed that I allowed myself to get so busy with report cards and everything else that I stopped my daily plan of rebounding, which was a commitment that I had made. So I'm not saying there isn't time. We still have 40-something days, man, till the new year, and I can very much double up and make up those days, because I do want to hit that new year with that commitment that I made to others, but to myself. And, you know, so many people who are successful in their program are successful because when they make promises to themselves, they actually keep it. It is so easy to make a promise to others. And for me, it gives me momentum. Like if I'm working with someone else, if I'm working for someone else, if I've made a promise to someone else, I'm going to fulfill it. But when it's to myself, not so much. Like there's a ton of wiggle room, and I break those promises to myself often. So no wonder when I verbally make a plan, I hear giggling, because it's like, yeah, right. She's not going to follow through with that. I mean, yeah, she made a proclamation about what she's going to eat, but don't worry, we can snake her. She'll falter. So, my current goal has been to not only make promises to myself, but to fulfill them so that I can start building up trust again for myself. And the other thing is, it's like, if I don't fulfill those promises to myself, then what I do is I tend to play this game where I'll be like, well, I'm not going to promise that because I don't want to be committed to that. If I promise that, I'll have to follow through. And so if I'm going to break that promise, then I'm not going to make it to begin with. Like this whole psychological babble, right? And it's like, no, make the risk of making a promise and actually fulfill that promise, and then let them build so that you can dare to trust yourself again. And in trusting, there's a tremendous amount of hope. But if I'm faltering all the time, there's no hope, right? such a bummer. I get it. Can anyone relate to this? I hope some of you can relate to that. But anyway, it is a worthy endeavor to dare to make promises to myself and fulfill them. You know, my thing comes down to time management, like every single time, because honestly, I have promised myself many things, and sometimes I will do whatever it takes, and that could be 3 in the morning. And then, of course, I have to get up at 5 in the morning. I'm not a teacher who is absent. It doesn't matter if I'm driving 100 miles a day. I'm not going to be absent. I actually am absent 1 day a year, and it's only because my husband plays Santa Claus at a previous school district, dare I say 2 districts ago, and they still love him, and I am willing to take that day to make it happen. But otherwise, no. I build up my sick days, and I am not absent. A couple years ago, I was absent all my sick days and then some, but that was because I got trampled by my horse and had to be hospitalized for 10 days, right? And since I've been eating vegan, I don't get sick anymore, so I can't even pretend that that's an excuse. Because even before that, like 3 years ago, I had strep throat for 7 days. I had a walking pneumonia for 14 days. I mean, once you pass your 10 days, unless you have stored up days, you have to start paying the district, right? You got to pay them. So luckily, these last couple of years, which have been super successful with the change in diet and everything, I've been storing up my days. I'm stoked. I'm so happy to not be absent, you know? I'm so happy to be accountable that way. But again, I get a little crazy because I don't manage my time very well. And then I forfeit my sleep. And, you know, it's no surprise that I had that fall with my food the other day. Just before that, I was down to 2 hours of sleep in 42 hours, right? And even in catching up with 4.5 hours, that put me at about 6.5 hours and 72, right? So it was like, you know what? No wonder my threshold and balance was off, and inability to block compulsiveness. Like, you need balance, right? Anyway, I'd love to receive balance. But that said, I got to do work right now, and it's already going on 10 o'clock. So let's pull it together. I just want to share a quote, which of course I will use as the icon for this video, and it's actively all over social media right now, so you may be familiar, though I found the better version because it's the actual guy instead of just a cartoon. And I just think it's so powerful. It's just something so worthy of reflection, and it's by Sadhguru, Sadhguru. And it reads, "You cannot suffer the past or future because they do not exist. What you are suffering is your memory and your imagination." Word. Can you believe that? You cannot suffer the past or the future because they do not exist. The past is like, there is only the present. I have learned this so many times, in so many ways, in all different belief systems. Those who are enlightened understand that we only have this moment. But then it's kind of like, okay, so how come science says that all time is running on parallels, and that the past and the future and the present are all running parallel, and that's why we could literally time travel at some point where we can jump the realms. Let's stick with this in the present, okay, so you can't suffer from the past or from the future. They know, first of all, the future hasn't even been revealed and can totally be affected, right? Through setting up our foundation today, through prayer, through all of the choices that we're making. So the future doesn't even exist. And of course, the past is nothing we can tangibly return to. So it says, what you are suffering from is your memory. And I would argue that it's not just suffering, because memories can be such a tremendous blessing, but we shouldn't live there, right? We can certainly recall them, but to hope in them, to spend time reflecting on them, to remember the good old days, all of that is just escapism. It's just escaping from the present, right? So anyway, what you're suffering is in your memory and your imagination of what you imagine tomorrow will be, which I would argue again is what you fear tomorrow might be. And if you're really hoping for tomorrow, the only way to make tomorrow all that you hope is to do the footwork for it, right? You have to take active steps. I mean, we honestly cannot just hope tomorrow will be all things. We have to take the steps to make tomorrow all things. And, it's just like that idea. And I know so much of this is about food. But it says Jules Blessed Vegan, right? Because not only am I dealing with changing my lifestyle and realizing the importance of what I put in my body as all-encompassing for what my life is, but it's also blessed, right? So I have to always be considering, where is God in that equation? And I think God is merciful. There's something interesting. Like, I have a phenomenal memory, and maybe it'll only get better with eating good food, but it's already phenomenal. And anyone who knows me absolutely knows that to be true. But what I've also learned in time is that how incredible my memory is, it has to filter through me. It has to filter through my insecurities. It has to filter through what was important in my perception and what I recall of that. And I've learned that the memory is fluid. So as we grow, how we describe the incident may vary based on our new value system and what we know now. And so while it is great memory, and people around me will always say, how did you remember that? And I can't believe it, because I literally will talk to someone after 30 years and say, do you remember? And I totally get it. And then, like, my friends who are getting much older, so people I babysat for or who cared for me or whatever, when I say, don't worry, I have your memories and I can share those with you. And they're like, oh, I'm so glad you remembered that, because I don't remember that. Like, I'm grateful for all those things, but I do understand that my perception can change over time. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. But I want to be careful with it too, because I'm a conviction girl. Like, all I do is make these profound statements and total conviction, and then inevitably pull my foot out of my mouth and have to backtrack and say, I'm so sorry. So it's interesting, but as I always say, I'm so happy to be on the planet, to be experiencing this thing called life, to take risks and jump in with, 2 feet, to just the whole process is very cool. I think it's very cool. I mean, my abuse, being abused, the tremendous amount of pain I've had in my life, physical, but emotional, spiritual, all of it. I welcome all of it. I welcome all of it, because it's more than a lot of people have. There's a lot of people who are just completely numb. There's a ton of people who haven't dared to unpack a single emotion or experience because they're just too afraid. There's some people that aren't even called, I guess, to be enlightened. I don't know. I think we literally are on levels, and I'm so grateful that God does keep me completely vulnerable. When I feel something, physically feel something, even if it's pain, I'm so grateful I can feel that, because a lot of people are numb and cannot feel that. When something tickles me and I'm giggling like a little kid, I love that, because I'm just so grateful that life is constantly coming at me, and that I have an awareness about it, that I am catching it every single second. That in the midst of being so busy and being such an adult and all the responsibilities, I can see a tiny little squirrel running by, and I can hear a bird whistling and be giggling about it. And like this morning on my way to work, are you kidding me? I was like, I want to say a kid in a candy store, but I was just so excited to see the snow. And then while I was admiring the snow and saying, really, Father, what a treat, there was an arc of a rainbow, like I had the biggest ever. I mean, and I could see all sides of it. And I was just like, how fun is that? I mean, seriously, all those things are there for every person, but many don't see that. They can't see it at all. And I'm so grateful to just see the simplicity, the profoundness, like all those things. So anyway, you cannot suffer the past, but you can rejoice in it and spend time there for a moment, especially if there's lessons to be learned that you can carry into now or the future. No, but you can plan for it. You can build your tomorrow. You can pray for grace to step into what God has planned as he's forming you in tomorrow. What you're suffering in your memory, if indeed you're suffering, whatever that memory is, can you change your perception of it? Can you decide that instead of being punished by it, you're going to learn from it? Can you dare to take that story and share it with others so that they can find peace in their life, so that they can see how you overcame it, so that they can feel their burden is lessened by someone who understands? And what you are suffering is in your memory and your imagination. Only if your imagination is one of fear, reluctance, anything that's stopping you from greatness. Because otherwise, are you kidding me? Imagine a way. Imagine the impossible and dare to attempt to achieve it, right? All right, let me read it in its entirety. And again, it is the icon for this video. You cannot suffer the past or future. They do not exist. What you are suffering is your memory and your imagination. And that's by Sadhguru. Sadhguru. All right, my friends, like if you like, join us if you haven't, subscribe. Let me support you by sharing in the comments below. And until we talk again, in this present moment, trust that you're blessed